Why, yes, there are other sci-fi podcasts on the web, but they talk about Star Wars, Star Trek, or Doctor Who and pretend they're really into sci-fi. They know nothing. This is Unpopular Sci-Fi, an Atomic Future podcast. Your host is an absolute sci-fi nerd. He knows and talks about anything and everything sci-fi. Sci-fi movies, shows, video games, and not only that, but he digs deep. Welcome in to Unpopular Sci-Fi, an Atomic Future podcast. And now your host, RJ Cervantes.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Sci-Fi, the show no one listens to. Yet. Before I get into the episode, I want to address three things. First, I want to apologize for not uploading any episodes of the show for the months of July and August. My mom recently had surgery and I decided to put the show on a short hold to help her out. I also been trying to start a YouTube channel, not for the show but for me. I'm trying to create a digital footprint. Second, Unpopular Sci-Fi is now on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Player FM. So to anyone listening, you now have more options. I'm still planning on having the show on SoundCloud, but I just don't want to pay for another hosting service. I'm already paying for Buzzsprout, and what I hate about them is that if I want to have another podcast, I have to pay for that one, meaning I have to pay $18 plus for an additional podcast. Not a fan at all. Third, I want to say something that relates to the last episode. That is, Transformers Rise of the Beast was pretty good. It's not the best or better than Bumblebee, but it's definitely better than The Last Knight, which is the worst in the series in my opinion. One of my favorite moments in the movie is the climax, where we see the Autobots and the Maximals team up to stop Scourge from bringing Unicron to Earth. However, I feel like the movie missed an opportunity to have Optimus Prime and Primal team up to fight Scourge. It's not disappointing to me, though, because we did get the best line from Optimus Prime in the movie.
Time to show you the real power of a Prime! This belongs to a friend of mine!
I also like Peter Davison as Mirage. He was my favorite character in the flick, along with Optimus Primal. True story, I almost saw a Spanish screening of the movie when it first came out. Luckily, someone at the theater pointed it out to me. Honestly, if my Spanish wasn't at a beginner level, I would have watched it. Yeah, I know, I'm a multiracial person with Spanish ancestry who doesn't know Spanish. But there's a lot of Hispanic and Latinos in the US who don't speak Spanish, so I'm not the first nor I won't be the last. Again, I'd like to apologize for my absence. I'll make it up to y'all. I'm currently working on episodes at the time of recording this. Today's episode is the sci-fi horror film Kids vs. Aliens.
Fuck space.
Kids vs. Aliens is a 2022 film directed by Jason Eisner. It was also written by him and John Davis. According to Jason, the flick is based on him and John's childhood growing up in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, which also happens to be shot there. He was also inspired by the UFO mythology surrounding Nova Scotia.
The movie is very much inspired by the childhood of me and the co-writer John Davies. We've known each other since we were 5 years old. We grew up going to school together and we fell in love with making movies together. And we're from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, which is like a hotbed for supernatural and paranormal mysteries. It's something that is very much part of the culture and has been for hundreds of years. And one of the stories that really intrigued me the most growing up, and it kind of haunted me and stayed with me, and I've always wanted to do something inspired by it, but it's the story of Shag Harbor.
The film is a feature-length adaptation of Jason Eisner's segment in the 2013 horror anthology film VHS 2. An adaptation is self-explanatory. You're taking a medium and turning it into another medium. In this case, it's a short film from an anthology film being turned into a feature-length flick. This is not a new idea. One of my favorite movies is the 2020 film Shiva Baby, directed by Emma Sigmund. It's based on their 2018 short film of the same name.
This moment here pays tribute to our found footage short film, Slumber Party Alien Abduction, which was part of an anthology movie called VHS 2. And one of the producers, Brad Miska, reached out to me, and we both expressed our dream of turning that short into a movie. And so he pitched it to Mark Ward at RLJE, and he greenlit it faster than anything I've ever been part of. It was within the span of 5 months that we got the script written, went into development, casted it, and then went into production. It was crazy.
The picture stars Dominique Marish as Gary, Phoebe Rex as Sam, Kayla McDonald as Billy, Asher Grayson as Jack, and Ben Tector as Mike. If you don't know who these actors are, I don't blame you. These were the actors' first movie, with the exception of Caleb and Dominique, who, according to their IMDb pages, have done a movie prior to this. The film is about Gary, who likes to make movies with his friends and his older sister Sam. While filming, a group of teenagers interrupt the kids and start taunting them. Sam, who got offended by the teens, decided to stop hanging out with her brother and his friends so she can make friends with people within her age range. Billy sees this as an opportunity to manipulate Sam into throwing a Halloween party while her parents are out of town. Fun fact, Jason filmed a house party at his parents' house.
And this right here is my mom's worst nightmare. I never did anything like this myself growing up, but I got to do it for the movie. I got to throw a Halloween party in my parents' house. But it was probably the scene I was most nervous about because we let the kids go nuts and they're really spray painting on the walls. This song is the only song we licensed. It's by this DJ named Flower, who's from Italy. Andrew Gordon McPherson did all the music for the movie except this one track, which I found on YouTube randomly one day. But I just love the vibe of it, this like sort of like trancey Mortal Kombat vibe. I just thought this is like it's like the Mega Madness song from Gremlins, where the Gremlins are just going nuts. This is what these kids are doing too. They're just like losing their minds to this like crazy like techno music.
At the party, Gary exposed Billy's true nature to Sam. Pissed, Billy threatened to break Gary's arm in front of the partygoers. Gary's arm has already been broken after an accident falling from a ladder. In the nick of time, the aliens crash the party and start abducting our characters. Hijinks ensue. One of the things I like about the movie is the lore within the movie. In the flick, they hint that the aliens have been abducting humans for centuries. We can see Sam in a scene where she picks up a sword from a dead knight. I adored the practical effects in this movie. I haven't seen any CGI in this flick. Then again, this is a B movie, and I do love me some B movies. The aliens in this movie look like the typical gray but with messed up faces, and a pale color instead of gray. For those who don't know, a gray is your typical pop culture alien. When you ask people what do they think of extraterrestrial aliens, they're probably going to say gray body, big head, and black eyes. They also spit some green slime out of their mouths. If exposed, you turn into a monster. We see this when Billy's friend Dallas got exposed and turned into Edward Scissorhands. They could have saved money on effects by getting Johnny Depp to play the monster version of Dallas. This should be an easy role for him since he is a monster in real life, if you know what I mean. The aliens have no weapons, which is weird because what if the army or cops show up? How are they going to fight back when the humans have guns? I also like the relationship between Sam and Gary. I could tell that they are brother and sister and they do care for each other. However, Sam is a gula. That's Australian slang for those who don't know. By the way, I'm autistic and one of my special interests is language, particularly slang. So don't be surprised if I say something you never heard of, but I will say where it's from just to be safe. Anyway, Sam is naive. I don't understand what she saw in Billy. This is the same guy who threw a bottle at one of Gary's friends, or one of his friends, but she was there when it happened. Not only Billy is abusive, but he's also a coward. He pushed his friend to be sacrificed by the aliens. He locked our heroes out of their own house. He's willing to watch Gary be killed because he doesn't like him. And he killed Jack, who is a child. He's just messed up in the head. He even pees on the walls in Sam's room. I get that Sam is a teen, but why does she ignore the red flags? I guess we all went through that phase as teens. We all want to belong, but if I find out that the group I want to be friends with are bullying my brother or sister who happen to be kids, I'll kick their asses. I also don't like the ending. It's just sequel baiting. I won't spoil it, but the sword in the movie is a plot point. Kids versus aliens is okay. I wasn't bored. It's quite entertaining. You can tell Jason was passionate about the movie. It's filled with everything he loves, from wrestling to UFO mythology. If you don't like B movies, then I don't recommend it. But if you do and need something to watch, I say go for it. The best thing about Kids vs. Aliens is that it's short. It's only 75 minutes. I give Kids vs. Aliens a 3 out of 5. For those who've seen Kids vs. Aliens, what did you thought of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you thought it was alright, but I wouldn't watch it again? Let me know at atomic_future on Twitter. And no, I'm not calling it X because that's stupid. Even though I feel like Twitter/X, I just call it X now. Even though I feel like that site won't be here for any long, so I'm just waiting until I get my Blue Sky invite. Until then, I see you guys in the next review, which is not next week, but the week after next. Ciao.
You've been listening to Unpopular Sci-Fi, an Atomic Future podcast. RJ's passion is anything sci-fi and anything except mainstream sci-fi. We nerd out and dig into the petty stuff, the fun stuff. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on YouTube at Atomic Future and on Twitter at Atomic_Future. See you next time on Unpopular Sci-Fi.